I would like to follow that question up with a question on when you look at Ethiopia and you look at the market here, what is kind of, where do you see the opportunities? What's your observations? What do you see are the potential areas that either you and your company as investors or other investors might want to back?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Ethiopia is 100 million people. There are lots of broken value chains. Guys, if you can't find something to fix, you've got a problem. All right? So see those problems as opportunities, because they are opportunities. And one of the things that we notice is different about this market to where I used to invest in Europe and in Asia is there is so much demand because there's such a huge population base here, most of whom are really badly served. So you just need to come up with something they really, really need, and man, they'll be queuing up to buy it from you. So demand isn't the problem. The real issue is fixing the value chains which are broken. And we all know how much red tape there is in Ethiopia. So on the positive side, it's a huge market with lots of things that could be fixed. On the negative side, the friction, it takes dogged determination to get through all your permits, to get registered for this. So you do need that. Frankly, it's not very glamorous. It's just head down, I'm going to work at this until I get a solution. And that is a little harder here in Ethiopia than it is in some of the other markets that we operate in. But on the positive side, there is less corruption here. And frankly, that is a huge problem in some of the other markets that we operate in. So I think there's a mix of things that make Ethiopia really attractive. But really, guys, as I said, there is 100 million people here who are mostly poorly served. There are opportunities everywhere. What you just need to do is think intelligently about how you fix those broken value chains, given the constraints of some of the red tape in this particular economy.
That's brilliant. And those of you who were around, and one of the questions asked to Yasser was around the red tape and bureaucracy, and he gave us incredible insight. Does anyone remember how to get through the bureaucracy at the government offices? Bring cookies with you.
Great idea.
Very practical
entrepreneurial flair.
Very practical advice, speeds you through the queues, gets you remembered. So if you come back, it's tamallas, nagaba, and instantly you're through the red tape. So if you want to buy some cookies, you know where to find them. So
promotion.
That wasn't deliberate. That just came. But yeah, John, to you the same question. When you look at Ethiopia and you look at the market, what do you see, and what are the opportunities and challenges, and what advice do you have?
Yeah, I think, everything that Andrew said, just not to repeat that, but try and add to that. I think, especially kind of from where we're sitting, there is obviously a huge gap between where most entrepreneurs are and where kind of the floor starts for most for most investors. So bridging that will take a lot of effort. And I know the government, or the new government, if you want to look at it like that, is very committed to kind of serving entrepreneurship. But I think it's completely underserved from as far as we're concerned, and we would hope a lot more of our colleagues would actually come in and compete with us to kind of deliver better and better services for Ethiopian entrepreneurs. I think as an outsider, I was introduced to this concept of wax and gold, that you can't always kind of see the gold for the wax in Ethiopia. And I know that it has several different meanings. And I think both from investors' perspectives, but also from expatriate and perhaps even diasporas coming back to Ethiopia, it's not as easy. It's not kind of you can just land and get going, which is a lot more the case in a country like Kenya, where it's a little bit easier to kind of get going from scratch from a cultural perspective. And I'd say even Kenyan entrepreneurs are struggling engaging with investors, broadly speaking. I'm not putting you on the spot here, but often it is in terms of communication, being able to kind of get your message across to the investor and package your communication with their perspective and understanding that, and reversely, of course, having the investors understand where you're coming from as an indigenous entrepreneur. I think a lot of the time, as indigenous entrepreneurs, it is not always easy to kind of make that communication work and kind of get that thing across. And I think that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges. I often joke and say the best you can do as an entrepreneur in terms of raising funds is learn how to speak with a British accent. Then they would listen more carefully to you. No, but what I mean by that is, of course, learn how to see the world through the eyes of the investor so that you can package your communication so that it sits better with them so they don't have to kind of do all the filtering themselves.
Excellent. I've actually found the British accent has backfired because whenever I say grass, past, fast, everyone sits there going, what? And I have to rephrase it fast, past, grass. And so the accent just leaves people totally confused at what I'm talking about. And so I feel I've adopted an American accent just so people can understand me.
Can I just actually add to the point you made, John, about communicating with investors? It's a really good point. One of the things that might be worth you guys knowing is that above us as investors, I've got other investors, right? And they have given me their money for 10 to 15 years, and they have expectations of what I'm going to do with that. What that means on me when I'm talking to you as an entrepreneur is that I'm going to put my money into you. I expect it back. It's not a gift. And I expect you to talk to me whilst you're using it about how it's going. Not because I expect it all to go perfectly, but precisely because I don't expect it to go perfectly. The communication channel has to be really open. Now, some of that's a bit culturally alien. And that means I'm going to sit on your board. I'm going to insist on having at least 10 meetings a year. And frankly, I want to meet you in the bar sometimes on a Friday night and just chat. I want you to tell me about what's working and what's not working. Not protect everything and pretend everything is fine, because I know that's not true. In fact, the moment you do that, I start to lose my trust in you, because I know that not everything's fine, and therefore you're probably hiding something. So there's a degree of exposure that is required when you take money on from somebody like Novastar. And that's a bit weird sometimes, and possibly in Ethiopia is a little bit culturally unusual. And for instance, when I sign up my agreement, you can speak to Greenpath who are here, I will say, I'm not going to take over your business. You're running your business. But every time you do one of a list of 26 things, I want you to come and ask for my permission before you do it. So if you are, like Greenpath, facilitating access to global markets for small-scale farmers, don't suddenly change your business and become a second-hand car dealer without asking me, right? Because that's not what I invested in. So there's an element of partnership and sort of closeness that you need to be willing to engage with. Otherwise, it will not work with your investor, and it will just end in tears.
Just adding quickly to Andrew's note, actually one of the, and my entrepreneurs down there in the corner will nod to that. One of the very first things we talk about on the very first day of our program is vulnerability, and how to be vulnerable as an entrepreneur, because that is what we find that most entrepreneurs are really, really bad at. It is being vulnerable, exactly for the reasons that Andrew is saying, but also for the reasons of kind of opening up to other people around them to get that help, because you're not alone in this world, and you certainly should not look at yourself as being alone when you have an investor on board. So.
Brilliant. This here is profound insight. To be able to be hearing this stuff at whatever stage you're in business is actually invaluable, because it helps you now think about how to angle, how to position yourself, what to think about. And so as we sit here, we will open it up for conversation. We will open it up to Q&A in a second as well. Having these guys here is directly because of your feedback and requests. So the sheets that have come around are feedback forms. We really request that you fill them out honestly, and that's how we keep improving these things. We're going to open the floor up, so have your questions ready just by show of hands, and then we'll go around. Great. So I'll just repeat that question so everyone hears it. First, the highlight of understanding your customer is an incredible one. What is your strategy to your accelerators in doing that? And then second, did you hear the second one? I heard it, I just forgot it.
Now, how do we use that on ourselves, essentially? Yeah. So I'll take the last question first and say there is also such a thing as listening to your customers too much. And I think we've kind of suffered from that. So of the was 18 cohorts we have had over the last 7 years. In the current format, we've probably changed 16 times to adjust for all of the feedback that we're getting. And that's actually, our funders have come back to us and said, that's perhaps not desirable. So I think you have to always get that middle ground. You can also end up listening to your customers too much. But obviously not listening to your customers at all is absolutely the worst case scenario. So some of the strategies, I mean, it does depend a lot on the business and where exactly they are. And often it is just hand-holding them in that process. Actually going down to them if they're selling in through a retail chain, for instance, walking with them into the retail outlet and actually approaching a customer that picks their product off the shelf and start having a conversation with them, to arranging focus groups if they have a more kind of settled way of engaging with them, to designing strategy campaigns in terms of receiving feedback from the customers in a more structured way, either include a small coupon in your products that you'll get a discount on if you then SMS it with some feedback. Various strategies. So there's nothing in that we specifically use. We try as much as possible to kind of lean on the human-centered design principles in everything that we're doing. That's actually not just for the customer feedback. That's for everything that we do because it creates a nice framework.